Welcome to another episode of Nice Try for the Fans. This is me, Elle, with you for the next while, and I am joined, as usual, by my delightful co-host, Timothy Joshua Smith.
What it do?
We've got lots to talk about, I imagine, but there's only really one thing that I want to talk about, and that's the Springboks, because they're everything. And I want to show to the people that despite a loss, they're still everything. Do you think, and this might sound disrespectful, but do you think they meant to lose? We talked a little bit about it in our preview episode about how there's lots of experimentation going on. And if I think about that 56-meter penalty attempt by Faf de Klerk, like that would have been Ireland. They struggled with the lineouts. Yes, they recovered, but for me, going for a win would have meant going for the line out, and yet they didn't. And there were moments like that, and we'll talk about it more a little later on, but just to get us kicked off, do you think that there was an element of, this isn't a must win, it's not the worst thing in the world, they're the world number ones, we can play a little bit?
Yeah, I think looking at the squad makeup, particularly the 7-1, you would think they'd focus more on a forward-heavy sort of tactical outlook, but apparently not. And so I don't think they meant to lose, but I definitely think they used it as a vehicle to test certain things out, because, like you said, 56 meters. Even after that first one, you would think, okay.
Yes.
It wasn't too far, but the second one was definitely a shot that should not have happened. And I think the Springboks mauled once, and that was right at the end. I know that the coaching team, I think we'd be naive to think that it was just the Springboks that were holding things back.
Oh, for sure.
So I think both coaching teams use it as a nice opportunity. The stakes aren't completely do or die, and so you can at least blood your players into that atmosphere, that level of intensity. And I think had the Springboks won, I don't think they would be disappointed. I don't think the Springboks ever play to lose.
No.
But there's certain losses that you are willing to entertain for the sake of the greater good.
Yes. And I saw a headline. Players in the New Zealand camp were saying, we watched that match closely and now we know what to do. So there was, when you say they were holding back, it wasn't holding back in the sense of holding back, not giving everything, but holding back in, you're not going to know all our tactics.
Definitely. On
the third weekend of the Rugby World Cup. When, they are the likes of a sequel to this for the final, or should New Zealand beat Ireland in that quarterfinal, then we definitely don't want them to know what our plans and our secrets are. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, looking at that final before the final, as it's been dubbed, because the way has been paved for a second meeting between world number 1 and world number 2, Ireland and South Africa, should they successfully beat their opponents come quarterfinals. But it's not necessarily all that easy. There's talk about a mathematical scenario where South Africa might not even make it out of the group stages. Now, we're not here for that. But we also don't want to take Tonga, our next opponent. We don't want to take them lightly. So we'll be looking at the team selection there and what you can look forward to seeing in that match. And then we're going to look back at some of the other matches, starting off with the latest on Wednesday evening. Uruguay, the darlings of Rugby World Cup 2023. They've got their first victory, and that was with a 36-26 point victory over our neighbours Namibia. And I know they are our neighbours. I was cheering for them in that first half, history in the making. It could have been their first victory ever. But the spirit and the heart of the South Americans, they've had a lovely campaign in just not just winning over the fans and the neutrals, but just showing a little bit of what they're capable of.
Yeah, it's been very nice to see them. The way they play rugby as well, could have been very defensive, take the points on offer, but they're going for some spectacular tries as well. There was the one that was finished in the corner.
Yes, a flyer.
That was really, really nice to see. And I know there was a lot of talk about, these minnow countries not really contributing much because there obviously isn't as many stakes, or there's no great stakes when they play these bigger teams. But I think anyone that is a fan of rugby would have enjoyed that match yesterday. It was a bit sad to see the cards being dealt, but there's a definite focus put on tackling because we would consider the most intense match, and very little in view of discipline with regards to tackling. There were some niggles around the rucks, but for the most part, it seems like that is definitely something that can be coached and attention needs to be given to it. So, on one end, you are on World Rugby side to say, like, look, this is something that you guys need to give attention to. It will be better for everyone. We don't want to see these head collisions, and the game can still be enjoyable.
Oh, for sure.
Without it being, apparent.
Yes, that was probably one of my favorite takeouts from that Ireland-South Africa game. It was physical, it was brutal, it was tense, and yet no major incidents, and it was kept clean. And I mentioned in our preview how I wanted rugby to win, and it did. And yes, sadly, 4 cards in that match between Uruguay and Namibia, one of course being upgraded to red, and that's what's is Namibia going for like 1 red per match? They're on the wrong side of history in that regard, but definitely something to be looked at. Other results, and I know it's now a while back, but we're going to talk about it. Argentina edging out Samoa 19 points to 10. That group wide open. England, comprehensive victory over Chile, 71 points to 0. And 2 other matches that we're going to talk about, Scotland and Tonga. They weren't all that kind of. I don't feel like the scoreboard reflected what was actually happening. I didn't feel like Scotland delivered a 45-17 performance. But we can touch on that in a bit. And then, of course, the one that was talked about the most is Wales, Australia, 40 points to 6, going in favor of the Welsh. So Australia out, essentially, of Rugby World Cup. And then a delightful draw, Georgia and Portugal. So 3 great displays of beautiful rugby. I'm talking about the Welsh game, that draw, and then South Africa, Ireland. Let's start just quickly with Argentina. Argentina, for me, they're still not firing on all cylinders. Like, they're probably the biggest disappointment for me this time around, just because we have different expectations. They're better than this.
Yeah, that game seemed to be a case of who wants to lose it instead of who wants to win, because the conditions weren't great, and you would expect Argentina with a very accurate goal kicker like Boffelli to really use their expertise. They've got an experienced bunch of guys. Let's keep it tight, let's get the points. And yet somehow Samoa was in that match also trying to throw it away. Lealifano just a shocking display at poles, and yet they managed to see it out, which I guess is a positive in a strange way for them. We could have been talking about 2 tier 1 nations exiting after the 3rd round. So I'm sure they are very happy. Hopefully that gets the monkey
relieved. I don't know about happy.
Hopefully it gets the monkey off their back, and they can actually start producing like we know they are capable of.
Yeah.
They did have a long break, so maybe it was some rust.
Sure, a lot though.
Yeah, it wasn't a performance that inspired much confidence. But we'll see how they go against Japan, which should be also could be another banana skin for them.
Yeah.
Because Japan, in spells have shown some of their 2019 class, but Yeah, this group is, like you said, it's wide open. England have been running the show.
Yes, unfazed.
A much maligned England going into the World Cup, so I'm not sure what that says for the rest
They're
of
doing the opposite of what Argentina. they're showing up.
Yeah.
Not disappearing. There's Japan and Samoa. Whoever wins there is in with a shout. But they are reliant on other results because Japan then, as you say, still have to go up against Argentina. And then Samoa still have to see England.
Yeah.
So this is really going to come down to the wire at the last minute. It's anyone's guess who's going to join England in the quarterfinals. I wouldn't dare.
I mean,
predict.
England also have the possibility of securing something like a place and, deciding, okay, we want to rotate or rest a few players, so that might be a weakened team and might play into the favor of others. But like you said, I wouldn't want to prognosticate on this
No,
this
please
group
don't.
at all.
Yes. Scotland, some were saying, okay, they've found themselves, but the opposition, it was Tonga. And for the first half, I thought that Scotland didn't really have it figured out. They didn't know how to go about getting the work done. But of course, your guy, Finn Russell, you know what? Sidebar, the commentating. And I don't know if it's on all the channels, but the commentating, they're calling Finn Russell the names mastermind, rugby genius, midfield aficionado. He just passes the ball. He has there was, I think it was the setup for the try where he had like a mini dummy and then passed.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, looking at our local teams, in the URC, I'm kind of used to, I don't know if it's maybe they're not used to seeing that, but they were like, oh my goodness, did you see that? The genius of Finn Russell with that dummy. You're a big fan, I know, so maybe you're agreeing with them wholeheartedly, but I'm not yet convinced.
I think obviously Stuart Hogg isn't there, so the prodigal son is now Finn Russell, and most of the Scottish commentators will be looking to him to produce something of something magical. I think he definitely warrants some attention.
I get that.
I'm not sure if they are accurately viewing what he's doing in relation to world rugby as a standard. But I must say some of his actions have definitely been praiseworthy. The extent of that, that's up for debate, because it also depends on, it's very subjective, sort of what rugby do you like?
Yes.
What do you think is, appealing?
Yeah, because then Havili could also...
Yeah, definitely.
He's also on his way to mastermind him.
I'm sure if we listen to the Tongan coverage of it, they would be, creating the same sort of hype. But he did have a few nice touches, and I think we always guaranteed that from Finn. I don't think you can always count him out for the whole match. But like you said, Tonga were definitely in with a shout, but as was the case against Ireland, just silly errors.
Yeah, they let themselves down.
Yeah, and I mean now Via Fafita's out for 3 matches.
Yes. Discipline is just such a letdown.
Yeah, so hopefully that bodes well for us. We'll talk about obviously the Springbok game, but it's very disappointing. I know the island nations came in with a bit of positivity and some expectation. And it seems like Fiji we're yet to see if Samoa can do anything, but Fiji have been the pick of the bunch.
Wales, Australia, 40 points to 6. Wales, the first team to cement their spot in the quarterfinals. Who would have thought? Warren Gatland? Was this part of his master plan? This was his intention all along? Not just the match itself, but Australia and where they're at. I read Sterling Mortlock. He's warning the Australian top dogs to not fire Eddie Jones, and I must say, I agree. I feel like he had 2027 in his sights. Sure, maybe the intention wasn't to exit 2023 so early, but it was about, the long game. It was about the future and rebuilding. Australia, they're in a bit of a state, and there is no quick fix. Eddie Jones could be onto something with this group of players. Yeah, I don't know how you feel. You're an Eddie Jones fan, aren't you?
No,
sorcery.
I wouldn't say I'm an Eddie Jones fan. I respect him, and I can recognize what he's done in past teams and past regimes. But I think in this particular circumstance, there are certain indications that I don't think will bode well for the union. Just a few like logistic things that I've been hearing out of the camp. People coming to the squad and then saying, no, you're not part of the squad. Some very, it seems lacking professionalism.
Oh dear.
Yeah, some of the decisions that were made, you can say, okay, you're going to exclude the older guard, you want to blood in the youngsters, but there needs to be a balance, I think.
Yes.
Especially when you can get contribution. I think we saw this sort of similarly in the Springbok in various eras where, and I think this is what Rassie and Jacques did so nicely, you don't want to build a losing culture because that can scar players.
Yes.
And obviously winning changes everything. I have no doubt in my mind that had Foley been there, had a Quade Cooper been there, had a Michael Cooper,
yeah.
They definitely would have produced
something different.
Yeah, even just on an individual level, Cooper and Hooper, they have that star quality that will produce something out of their own. And that's probably a few points away from, at least going to the quarterfinals. A group stage exit is not going to do much for your young players.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a deeper concerns. I know people have been speaking about rugby in Australia, that it's not the most popular sport, that they've seen dwindling participation numbers, rugby league, Aussie rules, cricket, soccer. Better athletes are going there, and so I'm not sure how Eddie can really, that's
so the issues are grassroots.
Yeah, but I think if you had to have a winning formula,
that will invite them in.
So I think from that perspective, he missed the boat. Yeah, it's tough to say. There's 4 years, there's many things that can change in this period, and I think we're starting to see the lack. And I know someone also mentioned this, one of the All Black coaches said that they're missing the South African influence in Super Rugby, and you don't know what you have until it's gone.
Oh yeah, because on that, Australia and New Zealand, this is just how they're looking, how they're performing. It's not what we're used to seeing from them. But then on the flip side of the coin, the Irish, the teams, the countries who have the South Africans now as part of the URC, they're thriving. They're at the top of their game. They're qualifying early. Those nations are benefiting from that South African presence.
Yeah, it's clear to see.
So now we know who the real...
Join the Curry Cup, win the World Cup. I think that's what we are selling.
So that's, for the most part, what's been going on around us. Just to let you know, upcoming matches: Thursday, Japan, Samoa; Friday, New Zealand and Italy; also Australia, Portugal. That's who's in action. And then Saturday, Argentina, Chile. Expecting to see something better from Argentina there.
South American derby.
And then Fiji, Georgia. I'm looking forward to seeing my flying. I missed them this weekend. And then Scotland, Romania. Finn Russell's just gonna, dazzle and delight with some delectable deliveries. I don't know what they'll say for that. And then, of course, South Africa, Tonga. New Zealand, Italy. Is this the upset we've been waiting for?
I do want to state, just for the record, that I did mention that Georgia, Portugal is a potential
Oh.
I went to go listen back to
Oh, yes. Oh, wow. Well
So-
done. Okay. Well, then keep them coming.
And
I
it-
ask you again. New Zealand,
No,
Italy.
no.
Okay. Just, if you've
I
got the
s-
secrets, then
I had a look at the All Black team, and it seems
unlikely.
yeah, this is probably the first time that they've been at full strength, I would say. So if Italy managed to upset them,
Then
well,
just give them the cup.
give it to them. It's their World Cup. We are just playing in it. But yeah, New Zealand, I think they will definitely. This is, to my memory, one of the very few World Cups that New Zealand has not been undisputed favorites.
Yes.
So it's a weird position for them to be in.
They probably don't know what to do with that.
We'll see how they react.
On one hand, you can say, oh, they're flying under the radar, there's no great pressure on them, but we don't know how they respond to that. Maybe they thrive off the pressure and the expectation.
Yeah.
And now with it being missing, they're just
It's
coasting.
it's going to be really interesting to see because obviously Ireland are flying high. Some might say too early. They're talking about streaks, and I don't want to,
I don't want to take anything away from them.
but I will say this, putting my head out there, it felt like they won their final.
Okay, Owen Wilson, they can't play better than that. I mean, yes, in this case, we can't really count the Romania and Tonga match as much. And so this was their greatest test, and they should we just get let's get into that match, and then we can end off with South Africa Tonga. But for me, and this is my just biased fan view, I didn't feel, same as in 2019 when we lost to New Zealand, I didn't feel like we were 100% outplayed. We were matched physically. They beat us at the ruck, and there were certain facets where they came out on top, but then there were also facets where we did. And then of course we let ourselves down by not finishing so many opportunities, passes not going to hand, losing the ball on the line, and then yes, missing some kicks. I don't think that's the biggest thing, but
I watched the game back because I know there was always going to be calls of the referee and some dodgy decisions, but for the most part I thought Ben O'Keefe was fine.
yeah.
I think it's more issue with TMO because they're very inconsistent in when they point certain things out and when they don't. But be that as it may, like you said, South Africa did not feel like they were completely out of the game. I'm not going to say South Africa lost the game because I think Ireland, they showed up. They did what they were supposed to.
Yes, they looked prepared, well prepared.
Yeah, and they played a really solid game. And, given because we can just say the same thing about their lineouts. It wasn't
Yes.
functioning. Did they lose because of that? And I think on the balance of play, they probably deserve to win. We can't get into the minds of the coaches, but it definitely looked like at least both sides were holding things back. So it's going to be you'll get a clearer picture, I think, in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, when it's real.
Yeah. And then we'll see. I mean, obviously, it's tongue-in-cheek that Ireland at peak already, but we'll see then if
Yes.
they've really gotten over that hump.
And then
Because-
it's also consistent tests.
Yeah.
Because now they've had us. They've got Scotland next, which is tougher than Tonga and Romania, obviously.
And they need to win that match.
Yes. And their desperation and fight is going to come out. And then it's quarterfinals. So they're going to have to deliver from now on. There are no breaks.
Yeah.
What made it also quite a beautiful match was, like we said, I think, was it the first 4 or maybe 5 I can't remember how many lineouts they lost, but it was quite significant. But then they recovered from it.
Yeah.
So being able to adapt. And then another one of your guys, your dream team guys, Aki, he sliced through us.
Yeah.
And then we had his number. So like it
was a give and take.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that about both teams, is that yes, there's a little bit of something, but this is how I respond and I fix it. So it was really pleasant to watch. whether you're neutral, whether you're supporting the team, it's just like your heart can't handle it, but at the same time it's just pure enjoyment, and you kind of have to re-watch so that you don't have your nerves and the clock and all of that. A huge talking point, especially among people who don't necessarily know the full picture of rugby, they immediately go into kicking.
I think the kicking conversation, especially kicks that are within the time span of a match, I don't mind having the kicking conversation if it's the last act of the game, because there's so many things that can take place. Okay, we kick that one penalty, maybe Ireland then shift into a higher gear and we never get another penalty again. So I think that for me, if it's the last kick, then I can understand. But like Jacques says, there were other issues.
Oh yeah.
It was part of the reason. It was not the complete reason.
For sure.
Because Franco Mostert not releasing, that gives them the penalty. They then get the line out and then score their try. So I think it's just a bit of an uneven, scale when it comes to pointing certain things out but not others. And I think for the most part, we obviously would have loved to have scored those points, and we would always want to execute, but we lost the ball twice on the line.
On the line, yes.
Yeah, that's execution.
That for me was more
egregious.
Yes, than missing 3, 5,
From
11,
50
whatever.
meters.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I think we should, especially as supporters, be more holistic in our view of how we're viewing the game. And like you said, we didn't play particularly or dramatically worse than Ireland, and we were still in it. We had the opportunity to win it again. Our maul, no one's talking about that. We had and look, Mane kicked to the line. He's probably one of the best.
Oh my goodness,
kickers.
yes. Oh, when people say, "Oh, Mane can't kick," hello.
Yeah,
are you watching the same match?
I've seen so many people kick a penalty for 2 meters, and I'm thinking, okay,
what was the point?
Is this not supposed to be something that's
beneficial?
Practice? Yeah. And he set us up there. We were in the 5-7 meters. For all the talk of all our forwards, we managed to get our maul disrupted.
Yeah.
This is not to cause the blame. I think the whole team will take a collective blame, which they should. And even the coaching team. We spoke about the tactical decisions. That's why I still have the sense of confidence. Ireland were good money for it. They deserve it.
Yeah, well done.
Kudos to them. I think the quarterfinals will give us a real taste of where everyone is. Obviously, it's knockout. I'm not saying something that's uniquely insightful, but that's where you're going to see the cream rise.
How delicious it will all be. So it's looking like Antoine Dupont will be back for the quarterfinals, or in time for the quarterfinals. And I thoroughly enjoyed how the French media, they were trying to question both Sia and Jacques on, how are you going to prepare for that? He's the greatest, etc. And they were like, we've got Tonga. We're focusing on Tonga. They weren't giving anything, with that regard. And while I completely admire that, they're giving Tonga their dues and respect, going, we're not thinking ahead, we're focusing on you, this is our next match. At the same time, I as a fan have it in the back of my mind that he will be there. And also something that Nick Mallett mentioned, and you touched a little bit on Ben O'Keefe, there of course are those 50-50 decisions, and when you play a home team, those 50-50 decisions tend to go the way of the crowd and the home side.
So you're 16 or 23.
Yeah, so that is something that I am wary of. I mean, France, they haven't really been tested yet, so we can't say if that's been a factor. But do you foresee anything like, is that something that we need to have our squad study, looking at the kinds of calls, or will that only come at a later stage, like Jacques said, once we're actually in it?
I think as coaching teams, they obviously study the ref's sort of habits and his preferences and what he is more inclined to penalize and things like that. So they will definitely have their wits about them with regards to planning and being more adaptable to the referees. But at the end of the day, these referees are human beings and are prone to pressure, even though they might not admit it. It's just the way things are. And I think it will be the responsibility of the team that's playing France to adapt.
Yes.
I don't think Uruguay when they were close to an upset, were blaming the ref.
No.
They were just going about their business, and I think you would want to instruct your team play that the ref is not a factor. So you execute where you're supposed to execute. Yeah, I think they will plan for as much as they can. I mean, if you have an occasion like Bryce Lawrence, there's not much that you can do. Maybe you can get the moral victory.
You can't stamp moral victory on the side of your jersey.
Sure. And the thing is that France are a world-class team, so they will require attention to detail to the utmost. If Dupont is available, if he's not, it will still require some heavy lifting and some really good performances.
Yes.
And I think the Springbok squad and team are right to go about it in the way of our next game only.
Yeah.
We have a vision for one game, and that's as far as it's going to go. We had the similar thing with the All Blacks in 2019. Everyone was expecting us to play them in the final.
And then they weren't there.
It's silly as a coaching team because now you're making preparations for something that doesn't happen. That's wasted time.
Oh, for sure.
I think they've learned from that and take it game by game. I just was very amused by the one question from one of the journalists to Shark, and he asks, Shark, can the South Africa still win the World Cup?
Oh, yes. Oh, you were amused and they were amused as well.
Yeah, even Seal were cracking up. Because I think maybe we as Springbok fans have this tendency to, oscillate between doom and euphoria. I've got a quiet confidence.
And I had the same feeling after that loss against New Zealand in 2019. I had, when we lost to Japan back in 2015,
that was way more.
Like the world, there was just like a crack. Things weren't right. When we lost to New Zealand and after this loss, now I don't feel that. I don't. But let's look at that team who will take on Tonga. I guess the standout for many is that Andre Pollard returns to number 10. For me, a standout is Dion Fourie starting at 2. It's the first time definitely the first time in Springbok colours, but the first time in a long time that he's starting as a 2.
Yeah.
So that's huge for him, and I wish him well. He's just, he's such a personality and such an inspiration to young and old that you can make your dreams happen. Of course, I think you're going to have a particular side-eye focus on that 12-13 combo there. Andre Esterhuizen, the strength, but not the speed. And then we have Grant Williams on the wing, and you know who I missed? He's playing, but out of his regular position. Dwayne Vermeulen. I missed him. It was nice to see him in the coaching box there against Ireland. But I missed him. Jasper for me was candidate for man of the match, and so was Kwacha. If you can do like a relayed man of the match. He was man of the first half, man of the I know Bandiaki was,
Damien was there.
Oh my good, both Damiens.
Yes.
Sorry, that was loud. Both Damiens impressed me. Damien Willemse, it's tricky because he always impresses me.
I don't think he did anything wrong.
Yeah, but that's
made no errors. Vital tackle on.
I'm getting
Bandiaki.
accustomed that now.
Yeah.
Though I almost, if he does slip up, then I'll notice. But for me, he's just like being so consistently wonderful that whereas Damien De'Lendi, who's had his ups and downs, he did really well for me.
A World Cup man.
Yeah.
I don't think he's had a
rising.
bad World Cup performance.
Yeah, so good on him. This team has some sniffs of definite chances being given. We see Marvin Orie going next to Eben Etzebeth. That's huge for him. He, of course, played against Romania. Not the whole match. He didn't get a lot of opportunity to shine. Hopefully this is it for him. What are some of the standouts for you, or what's the thoughts here?
It seems like we're fully committing to Van Staden and Hooker, him being the replacement Hooker. I would have liked to have seen Jaden start. I mean, he is coming back from injury, so we're not sure what his capacity and how healthy he is. But I would have liked to have seen that. For the most part, nice to see Koch back from his injury, and nice to see a few players getting much needed rest.
Yes.
Peter Steph in particular. It's a bit strange seeing Sia there, but I guess who can stop the man?
Yeah, I imagine though that with Kwacha, they might take Sia off, let Dwayne play the whole match.
It's also probably just for captaincy because Bongi is not in the squad.
Yes, he also deserves rest.
Yeah, Bongi actually had a great game as well.
Oh, Stella. Him and Ox.
Yeah, Ox.
Solid.
It's nice to see Ox get a start as well. For the most part, I don't think this team should. I think we could have had a number of teams trot out, and we should still get the win. So it's good to get the guys some exposure. Obviously, the most intriguing part will be to see, should Mani come on? How does that work with Pollard, or is it a 1-for-1?
Ooh, do you think he'd come on, move Pollard to 12 with Jesse coming on?
Potentially. There's so many variations.
And that's probably the point.
Yeah, and I think just to see what sort of state Pollard's in. We know Tonga are a physical team, so
Very much.
if he can stand up to that, it would be very good to have him come through with a clean bill of health. Having said that, I think there's enough talent here to definitely to secure the bonus point and get the job done.
It's a great combination for me of experimenting and taking some chances and being able to adapt, but also having the spine of the team is still solid, experienced, know how to succeed kind of players.
I was reading Rassi's comments, and he was giving, I'm sure he was trying to protect Pollard as well as also tempering expectations. He basically said, Pollard's not Superman.
Yeah.
I think there is this sort of thought going around that Pollard's going to solve all of our issues. And that's why I spoke about the holistic view of the game. Pollard's not going to solve not releasing, not rolling away, lazy tacklers.
Yes.
That's not going to be his forte. And so I think we should support whoever's in the number 10 jumper. We should want every player to execute, irrespective, of what position they play.
Yeah. Also, this isn't the kind of match where the 3-pointers
are going to matter.
Yes.
Yeah. Unless we start doing bombs from 60, I'm going to make a prediction. I think they give Pollard a few shots from that sort of range.
Yeah.
If he misses,
yes,
I think it would be good for the team. Just so that people can see that it's not
look at us. Look at this.
It's not an easy thing.
Yes.
I hope all of our tries are scored out wide so that he has all his shots out
He's
wide.
fully tasted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so people can see Pollard, he gives us something that Mani doesn't, and Mani gives us something that Pollard doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's good to have both.
Tactics.
Yeah, we'll see. I obviously would like another scoreless opponent victory. Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Now, our final feature today, we are building our all-time greatest Springbok lineup. We're halfway. We're on the 8th man. In our previous episode, we looked at the sevens, Peter Steph du Toit, and we mentioned Johan Smith. My online poll, out of 66 votes, only 37% of the vote went to Johan Smith. I think it is quite a passive rugby crowd that I polled. And so, of course, Peter Steph is more top of mind, and he's also on their television screens. And so he won quite resoundingly so. Now this week, we're going to number 8, the easiest position to remember, as it's simply called the 8th man. He's right at the back of the scrum, and he's a ball carrier, he's a tackler, sometimes a fetcher. This guy, you need strength, you need someone you can rely on, and also you need someone good under the high ball, because he's often, a receiver of goal line dropouts and restarts. And just as I'm saying that, I've got a montage in my mind of Dwayne Vermeulen. And it's not clear cut. For me, it's easy because he's just like the longest reigning Springbok Eighthman. He's so successful. And some trivia for you. Back in 2014, this is nearly 10 years ago, he was South Africa's Player of the Year. That same year, he also won Super Rugby Player of the Year and Players Player of the Year. That's 2014. Yeah. That's 9 years ago. The man is still playing. And for me, I feel like that was the beginning. He has gained strength, and maybe it's exposure to other leagues in Europe, but he has only gotten stronger. That's why he's my pick. And the only one who comes close, and this was a proper captain, courageous, Gary Teichmann, is probably the only eighth man to compete. And he can't compete because of the era that he played in. Like, he doesn't have nearly as much exposure. He played 91 to 99. He is the most successful because in that time, they didn't play a lot. Yeah. And so his win rate, and also he was the captain. So his
one of the most successful captains.
His success rate as captain was 72% because he only led them for 36 tests and won 27. Yeah. So that is in his favor. But it was actually in an interview with Gary Teichmann that he said, he was talking about Dwayne and how when he started leading at the Stormers, that was when he really stepped up and became the player that he is. And so these are two remarkable leaders and also tremendous eighth men.
Yeah, I think, similar to the Peter Steph, we have a sort of current gen and the older gen. I think we saw it with Sia and Francois.
Yeah.
With Eben and say Bakkies.
Yes.
Like, we have one of each, but I think this next generation has just taken it one step further. And like you said, the eras dictate sort of the competition.
Yeah.
And there were obviously other issues surrounding Teichmann's era, but from what I've read about the man and his ability, I don't think we can question that. In terms of longevity, you really have to give it to someone like Dwayne. And I mean, he's also been versatile. I know he played flank, so it's not unfamiliar.
He's doing it this weekend.
It's not unfamiliar territory. He definitely played flank, coming up at the Cheetahs, the odd game or so. Like you said, it's now spanning more than a decade to have a consistent production at the highest level. It's not as if he was just, Karika Player of the Year. He's really shown his ability, and then I know in the analytical sphere, he's seen as someone that has a rugby brain.
Oh yes.
That is in charge of our defense. I think, Jasper's been good. He hasn't been bad. But I think if you had to poll most South Africans, they would still have that comfort of seeing Dwayne there. Even though he's obviously on the older side of things, still producing. He's sort of in that Kieran Reid. Like you're not sure when these people are going to end now.
Because they look like they can keep going.
And they do keep going, and I think Dwayne is really, I'm thinking of that one try that they scored in the 2015 World Cup.
Yes, Fourie Dupree. Oh, yes. The vision.
And so we also have to talk about his skill set at the scrum as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as easy having your scrum being dominant, but if your eighthman can't control it, it's pointless. So we know he has the skill set. Under the high ball, as calm as can be. In the recent matches I've been watching him, and I know what is going to happen, but I get tickled every time it does. Dwayne catches it from the line out, and it's straight.
Yeah.
Like he builds up this little pace.
Yes.
We know he's not fast, but it's just funny to see that it's like he's got that trademark now. Catch, head down, I'm gonna bulldoze. I mean that started at 2019 final. It's a Carl Sinclair that had to go off injured. Dwayne has been doing this for many years.
And yet he's unstoppable. It's like we know what he's going to do, we just don't know how to stop it.
Twickenham test against the All Blacks. When he goes down, I was like, whoa, this might be an end of an era.
No.
And then he's like, no, it's just a stinger.
No.
I'm going to put in a dominant performance after this. So, yeah, he'll definitely be my pick. I wouldn't quibble if someone chose Eighthman. I mean, you can only beat who's in front of you, and so him having that extraordinary record is something to behold. He's also got quite a good scoring record.
Yes.
So he was definitely a threat.
He was a little faster than Dwayne, I think.
Yeah, so
a little more nimble.
Yeah. I mean, I know Sharks fans love the man.
Oh yeah.
So he's definitely
back in the day
produced
with those
locally.
oversized jerseys.
And apparently we're getting a bit more respect on the South African competition. Given coaching comments, so we shouldn't discard that. But I think for me, Dwayne would also be my pick.
Yeah, we'd of course love to hear your thoughts, your picks, Gary Teichmann or Dwayne Vermeulen. If you are a fan of, say, Pierce Feast, I mean, yes, hello. Against Fiji in the quarterfinal of 2007 between him and JP Peterson.
Yeah,
I can't tell you who saved that World Cup for us. And when Mark Cueto in the final.
Was it Matthew Tate?
Or was it Matthew Tate?
On the line.
Yes, it was on the line. Yes, okay. We'd love to hear from you because these players are critical. Yeah, so we'd love to hear from you. Please do let us know your picks for Eighthman. We have had some greats in the position. We've only talked about 2 of them, but of course share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. You know where to find us. And next episode, it just gets more difficult. We're getting into scrum half territory. For me, it's again between 2, but
legends, eh?
Ooh.
Legends.
Ooh. Yeah. But yes, that's what will be happening next time. Between now and then, though, lots of rugby action. Wherever you watch it, do enjoy. We look forward to being in your company again. Thanks so much for joining, Timothy.
Bye-bye.
This was Nice Try for the fans.